How did my wife laugh while her friends called me her biggest mistake? Then go silent when my name was read out loud in a public lobby? Why did the same people who mocked me suddenly avoid eye contact? Can a calm husband rebuild dignity without revenge or violence? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Cassian, and I learned that words can bruise without leaving marks. That evening started like a normal weeknight, with quiet sounds in our kitchen and Lena's little footsteps in the hallway. I was stirring soup, checking the clock, and trying to keep the house calm. Noelle had been out with friends again, and she had texted that she would be late. I did not send angry messages. I only asked if she was safe, because Lena had asked twice where Mom was. Noelle replied that I was acting like a manager, not a husband. I put my phone down and kept cooking, because Lena needed dinner more than I needed an argument. Lena sat at the table, drawing a cat with a crooked tail. She kept looking at the front door like it could answer her. I told her Mom would be home soon, and I tried to smile like I believed it. When Noelle finally came in, the air changed fast. She did not stumble or look tired. She looked sharp, like she had been laughing hard and wanted to keep laughing. Her cheeks were warm, and her hair smelled like perfume and smoke from outside. She walked past me and placed her purse on the counter, but she kept her phone in her hand. She greeted Lena in a bright voice, hugged her, and asked about school. Lena hugged back, but her eyes flicked to me, checking if I was angry. I kept my face calm. I told Lena to wash her hands for dinner, and she ran off. The moment Lena was gone, Noelle's smile dropped a little, like she no longer needed the warm voice. I asked Noelle if she could sit and eat with us. She said she was not hungry and that I was always trying to control schedules. I said schedules were not about control, and they were about our child. Noelle rolled her eyes and said I used Lena as a shield whenever I wanted to look right. I did not respond with insults. I asked where she had been because the late nights were becoming a pattern. Noelle answered that she had been out and that I did not need details. I asked why she was angry at a simple question. Noelle said I was not asking, and I was accusing. She said my calm tone was fake, and it was how I made her look crazy. I told her I was calm because yelling would scare Lena. Noelle laughed and said Lena would only be scared if I taught her to be scared. Lena came back into the kitchen and sat down. I served her soup and bread. Noelle stood near the counter scrolling on her phone, then turning the screen away when I glanced up. Lena started talking about a class project, and I tried to give her full attention. I asked Noelle if she could listen too, because Lena liked it when both parents cared. Noelle said she was listening, but her thumb kept moving. Then Lena said something small that made Noelle snap. Lena said a boy in class had told her to stop being bossy. Noelle laughed and said men always hated confident women. Lena looked confused. I said we should teach Lena to be kind and confident, not rude. Noelle looked at me with a hard stare and said I always ruined the mood with my rules. Lena finished dinner and asked if Mom could read a bedtime story. Noelle said she would do it later. Lena asked again, softer. Noelle sighed and told Lena to choose a book. Lena ran to her room with a hopeful bounce. Noelle watched her go, then turned to me and said I should stop making Lena depend on her. I said Lena depended on her because she was her mother. Noelle said motherhood did not mean she had to live like a servant. I answered that no one asked her to be a servant. I asked her to be present. Noelle's jaw tightened, and she leaned closer, lowering her voice. She said I always acted like a saint, but I was the biggest mistake of her life. She said it slowly, like she wanted the words to land properly. My stomach tightened, but my body stayed still. I did not shout. I did not throw anything. I watched her face because I needed to know if she meant it or if she was just trying to win. I asked Noelle why she would say that. She shrugged and said truth hurt. She said her friends had been telling her for months that she could do better. She said they could not believe she had married someone so boring. I told her I did not care what her friends thought. I cared what our child heard in our home. Noelle smiled in a cold way and said Lena was asleep most nights anyway, because I always put her to bed alone. I felt anger rise, but I swallowed it. Anger was exactly what Noelle wanted, because anger would make her words look true. I asked her to lower her voice. Noelle said she could speak however she wanted in her own house. I reminded her it was Lena's house, too. Noelle said Lena would adapt, because children always adapted. Lena came back holding a book and standing at the kitchen doorway. She looked small in her pajamas. She asked if Mom was coming. Noelle's face changed instantly, bright again. She said she would come in a minute. Lena nodded and walked away, trusting the promise. Noelle watched her go, then whispered that I trained Lena to look at Noelle like she was a bad person. I told her I never said bad things about her to Lena. Noelle said I did not need to say them because my sad face said them. I asked Noelle if she was trying to hurt me on purpose. Noelle said she was trying to feel free. She said my calm face made her feel trapped, like I was judging her all the time. I told her I was not judging her for going out. I was judging her for turning our marriage into a joke. Noelle smiled and said jokes were not illegal. Noelle walked toward the bedroom, then paused and turned back. She asked if I planned to follow her next time and embarrass her. I said I did not follow her anywhere, and I did not want scenes. Noelle said scenes happened because I could not let her live. I asked her why she needed her friends so much lately. Noelle said her friends understood her, and they did not try to shrink her life into school lunches and bedtimes. I told her school lunches and bedtimes were not small when they belonged to our child. Noelle said our child was fine. She said the real problem was me. She walked into the bedroom and shut the door harder than needed. A few seconds later, I heard a drawer open, then another drawer, then the soft click of something being closed carefully. I did not rush in. I did not demand her phone. I stayed in the kitchen and listened to Lena humming in her room, turning pages and waiting. I went to Lena and read her the story myself. I kept my voice steady, and I held the book like it was normal. Lena asked why Mom was busy again. I told her Mom was tired and needed quiet. Lena asked if she had done something wrong. I told her no, and I said adults have feelings that children do not cause. Lena nodded, but her eyes stayed worried. When she finally fell asleep, she clutched the corner of her blanket like she was holding a rope. Back in the hallway, I saw a thin line of light under our bedroom door. I heard Noelle's voice, very low, like she was speaking to someone on the phone. I could not hear the full words, but I heard her laugh softly. It was a private laugh, the kind you share with someone you trust. My chest felt tight. I walked toward the door, then stopped. If I knocked, Noelle would accuse me of spying. If I stayed silent, she would continue. I chose silence. I stepped back and went to the kitchen instead, because I refused to become the man she described. I poured myself water and noticed 2 mugs on the counter from earlier, placed far apart. I had not placed them like that. Noelle had. My phone buzzed with a notification from the group chat Noelle's friends used. I was still in it from months ago, when Noelle wanted to prove we were modern. I did not open it right away. I stared at the screen and felt my hands want to shake. I told myself that if I opened it, I might see words that could change how I acted. I needed to act like a father first. I put the phone down and opened the drawer where we kept bills. I did not take anything out. I only noticed how messy it had become, like our home was slowly losing structure. I closed the drawer and breathed slowly. Then the tablet on the counter lit up, the one we used for Lena's school messages. A notification flashed for a split second, bright enough for me to read a few words. The contact name was not a real name. It was just an emoji. The preview said, "Biggest mistake," and then it showed a laughing symbol. Before I could touch the screen, the preview vanished, like someone had deleted it from another device. I stood still, feeling cold move through me. Noelle was not only saying those words to hurt me in private. She was sharing them. She was feeding them to a crowd. The bedroom door opened a crack, and Noelle stepped into the hallway with her phone in hand. She looked at me and asked why I was standing there. I said I was getting water. Noelle's eyes flicked to the tablet, then back to me. She said I should stop being weird. I told her I would sleep in the guest bed tonight, because Lena needed quiet and I did not want tension near her room. Noelle shrugged and said I could sleep wherever I wanted. She walked past me toward the stairwell door like she needed air. The door latch clicked, and I heard her voice drop low again. I heard her say my name once, then laugh softly, like the person on the other end had said something comforting. I walked into the guest room and pulled the blanket tight. The bed felt colder than it should have. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the house. In the distance, Lena's nightlight hummed. Noelle's low voice continued for a minute, then stopped. The stairwell door opened and closed quietly. I heard footsteps pause outside my door, then move away. My phone buzzed again with another group chat ping, and I did not open it. I knew what was inside, and I knew Noelle wanted me to react to it. I kept my face calm in the dark and made a decision I did not speak out loud. I would not compete with Noelle's crowd. I would protect Lena from it, slowly, carefully, and lawfully. Noelle slept late the next morning, and I did not wake her. I woke Lena, made her cereal, and tied her shoes while she blinked at the floor like she had not fully returned from sleep. She asked if Mom was still mad. I told her Mom was tired and that Lena did nothing wrong. On the walk to school, Lena held my hand tighter than usual, then let go only when she saw her teacher. I stood outside the building for 1 extra minute, watching children run in with light faces, and I felt the weight of our home on my shoulders. When I reached my car, my phone buzzed with 3 notifications from Noelle's group chat. I did not open them in the parking lot. I waited until I was in my office lot because I refused to start my day with poison. The open plan office looked the same, but the people did not. A few heads turned. Someone stopped laughing mid-sentence. I sat at my desk and logged in like a normal worker because routine is a shield when your name becomes a rumor. 10 minutes later, Daniel from accounting walked past and asked quietly if I was okay. He did not say Noelle's name, but I could hear it behind his words. I told him I was fine and thanked him for checking. My email loaded, and there was a meeting invite from HR titled Quick Word. The time was set for 11, and there was no agenda. I stared at the subject line for a full breath, then accepted it without comment. If I refused, it would look like guilt. If I panicked, it would look like instability. I chose calm because calm is harder to twist when it stays consistent. I worked until 11, but the work felt far away. My mind kept returning to the tablet notification from last night, the emoji contact, the words biggest mistake, and the speed with which they vanished. That deletion felt practiced, like a finger that knew exactly where to swipe. It told me Noelle was not only speaking carelessly, she was managing a story. At 11, I walked to the HR room with steady steps and open hands. Mr. Lyle greeted me with polite eyes and asked if everything was okay at home. I said there were personal tensions, but I was keeping them separate from work. He nodded, then explained that a concern had been raised about behavior and harassment. He said someone claimed I had been calling my wife too many times and showing up where she was. My throat tightened, but my voice stayed even. I told him I had not caused any scene at work, and I had not harassed anyone. I said I was careful about communication, and I avoided public conflict. Mr. Lyle said he was not making a judgment, only documenting. He warned me that social media posts can spill into the workplace and cause tension. That sentence hit hard because I knew what he meant. Noelle's crowd was already leaking into my life at work. He asked me to keep things calm and not involve coworkers. I told him I agreed. He ended the meeting with a friendly tone, but the damage was done. When I stepped back into the open office, I felt eyes on my back again, like my private life had become public property. I sat down and saw my phone lighting up. Noelle had sent a message that said, HR finally sees you. I did not answer. I opened the group chat instead because avoiding it forever would not protect Lena. The first thing I saw was a short clip from last night, posted by Maris Quill. It showed Noelle laughing in a stairwell, pointing toward the camera as if she was pointing at me. The caption said something about finally admitting mistakes. Comments below called me boring, controlling, and weak. One comment used the exact phrase from the tablet preview, calling me the biggest mistake of her life. My skin went cold. This was not a private fight anymore. It was a campaign. I did not reply in the chat. I did not report it in a rage. I simply took screenshots of the post, the caption, the timestamp, and the comments, because facts become slippery when people delete them later. I saved the screenshots into a folder on my phone labeled Archive A, then I put the phone face down. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight. I stood up, walked to the break area, and got water like a normal man. A coworker I barely knew glanced at me and then away. Another coworker whispered something that ended in a small laugh. I did not confront anyone. If I confronted them, it would become a story about me being aggressive. I returned to my desk and did my work with slow focus, the way you drive carefully on ice. At lunch, my mother Sabine called. She asked how I sounded so calm, and I told her calm was the only thing keeping Lena safe. Sabine said calm is good, but calm must be organized. She warned me that people like Noelle will push harder when they do not get a reaction. She told me to keep notes, keep dates, and keep routines. She said not to threaten, not to shout, and not to explain myself to crowds. I told her I understood. When I ended the call, I opened a blank spreadsheet on my laptop and started logging dates and incidents in plain language. I did not write insults. I wrote simple facts, like the time Lena asked where Mom was, the time the tablet showed the message, the time HR called me in, the time Maris posted the clip. I minimized the screen when someone walked behind me, not because it was illegal, but because it was personal. I added a recurring calendar event called Meeting Personal, then closed the laptop. No letterheads, no court words, just a quiet structure, like building a fence before a storm. After work, I drove to the supermarket to buy Lena's snacks and soup. The line was long, and I stood there breathing slowly, telling myself I would be home soon. Halfway through the checkout, my phone rang. Noelle. I answered with a low voice and asked if Lena would see her tonight. Noelle laughed as if that was a joke. She said I was still trying to control her schedule. I said I was asking as Lena's father. Noelle's voice got louder, like she wanted the cashier to hear. She accused me of spying and said I had been stalking her friends. I said I did not stalk anyone and I would not argue in public. Noelle said I was scared because everyone knew the truth about me now. She said her friends finally said what she always wanted to say. I ended the call calmly and paid for the groceries. The cashier avoided my eyes as if my shame might be contagious. Outside in the parking lot, I loaded the bags and sat in the driver's seat for a moment without starting the engine. My phone buzzed again. Group chat ping, a new post. This time it was a still image of me at work, taken from a distance through glass, like someone had tried to make me look suspicious. The caption said something about the controlling husband planning his next move. My stomach turned. This was not just mocking. This was bait. I drove home, checked on Lena, and kept my voice soft while she told me about her day. Noelle came home late, acting bright and casual, like the world owed her applause. Lena ran to hug her, and Noelle hugged back, but her eyes flicked to my face, checking if I would react. I did not. I served dinner, cleaned dishes, and read Lena a story. When Lena fell asleep, I returned to the kitchen and found Noelle scrolling on her phone with a smirk. I asked her to keep her voice down because Lena was sleeping. Noelle said I always used Lena as a shield. I asked why she let her friends call me names online. Noelle said her friends were only being honest. She said if the truth hurt, it was my problem. I asked if she understood Lena could hear these words someday. Noelle shrugged and said Lena would learn the truth anyway. Then her phone lit up with that same emoji contact and she tilted the screen away fast. I did not lunge. I did not demand. I only watched, because watching was safer than fighting. I opened my own calendar and added a reminder without looking at Noelle. Maple Station 9:01 a.m. Noelle noticed and asked what I was doing. I said I was organizing my life. Noelle laughed and said I was playing victim again. I told her I was not playing anything. I was keeping Lena's world stable. Noelle stepped closer and said I would never win because she had a crowd and I had nothing. I looked at her and said I did not need a crowd. I needed truth and structure. Noelle's smile tightened, and she muttered that I was cold. She walked to the stairwell to take another call, and the door latch clicked shut behind her. A second later, my phone vibrated with a new HR email, and at the same moment, the group chat pinged with a caption that said, "Tomorrow will be worse." The next day did get worse, and it got worse in a way that felt planned. Noelle woke up early for once, dressed like she was going somewhere important, and moved around the bedroom with quick energy. She did not look at me much. She only asked if Lena had school money, then said she was meeting Maris for coffee. I nodded and said, okay. I did not ask where the coffee shop was, because Noelle wanted questions she could call control. After I dropped Lena at school, I drove to work and tried to keep my mind on routes and schedules, because that was my job. But my phone buzzed with a new notification before I even parked. Maris had posted a story clip, and my name was in it. I did not open it right away. I waited until I was seated, because I refused to let my face change in front of coworkers. When I finally opened it, I saw a short video of Noelle in a cafe laughing with her friends. Bryce was there too, leaning into the frame like a host. The caption said they were celebrating Freedom Day, and someone had typed, "Good job leaving the mistake behind." Noelle smiled and nodded as if she agreed. My chest felt tight, but my hands stayed steady. I took a screenshot and saved it. At lunchtime, a coworker I barely knew stopped by my desk and asked if everything was okay, but his tone sounded like curiosity, not care. I told him I was fine. He smiled in a strange way and said he hoped I was not that guy people talked about online. I asked what he meant. He said people were sharing a clip of a woman talking about her husband as her biggest mistake. He said it was trending in local circles. He did not say Noelle's name, but he did not need to. I nodded once and returned to my screen, ending the conversation politely. My face stayed calm, but inside I felt the sickness of realizing that strangers were watching my marriage like entertainment. In the afternoon, HR called again. Mr. Lyle said he wanted to remind me about boundaries and asked if I had contacted Noelle at work hours. I answered honestly that I had not. He said the rumor culture was growing, and he suggested I avoid reacting publicly. I thanked him and kept the call short. When I picked Lena up from school, she ran to the car like normal, but her smile faded once she sat down. She stared at her hands and asked if Mom hated Dad. I told her Mom was confused and making bad choices, but hate was a strong word. Lena said a girl at school had said her mom saw a video where Lena's mom called her dad a mistake. The words "a mistake" came out of Lena's mouth like something sharp she did not want to hold. My throat tightened. I asked Lena who said that. Lena said she did not want to tell because it would cause trouble. I told her she did not have to name anyone, and I said it was not Lena's job to fight adult battles. Lena asked if she was a mistake too. I pulled over for a moment and turned the engine off. I looked at her, careful not to look angry, and I told her she was never a mistake. I told her she was the best thing in my life. Lena's eyes filled slightly, but she blinked hard, trying to be brave. At home, Noelle returned in the evening carrying a small bag like she had been shopping. She greeted Lena loudly, acting cheerful. Lena hugged her, but looked stiff. Noelle noticed and asked why Lena was acting strange. I said Lena heard something at school. Noelle rolled her eyes and said, "Children repeat nonsense." I told Noelle Lena heard the word mistake. Noelle laughed lightly and said it was adult talk, and Lena should not be sensitive. I asked Noelle to stop letting her friends post about our marriage. Noelle asked why, and she said truth should not be censored. I told her truth is not the same as cruelty. Noelle shrugged and said cruelty was my opinion. Then her phone buzzed and she tilted the screen away, thumbs moving fast. I did not move closer. I did not demand the phone. I only watched Lena, because Lena was watching us too. Noelle went to the stairwell to take a call, and as the door latch clicked, my phone vibrated with an unknown number. I did not answer. A second later, the group chat pinged, and the message preview read, "Tonight we say it out loud." That night I did not go looking for Noelle. I did not chase her location or demand she come home. I stayed with Lena because Lena was the one paying for words she did not choose. I made her a simple dinner and helped her with homework while Noelle moved through the apartment like a guest. She kept checking her phone, smiling at it, then hiding it when she noticed my eyes lift. Lena asked if Mom was staying for bedtime, and Noelle answered that she had plans. Lena's face fell, and she tried to hide it by pretending to read. I kept my voice steady and told Lena I would read to her tonight. Noelle walked into the bedroom and closed the door, and a moment later I heard the soft click of a drawer shutting. It sounded careful, like she was protecting something. I did not follow. I did not knock. I stayed at the table and listened to Lena's pencil scratch the paper, small and nervous. After Lena went to sleep, Noelle came out dressed for the night. She wore a bright outfit that looked like it belonged to a stage. She asked if I planned to sit in the dark and sulk again. I answered that I planned to keep the house quiet. Noelle laughed and said quiet was my weapon because I used it to make her feel guilty. I said guilt was not my goal, and I asked her to be careful with what she put online, because Lena had already heard it at school. Noelle's face hardened. She said Lena heard it because I made it a big deal. She said children learn to be tough. I told her children learn to be safe first. Noelle said safety was a boring excuse. Then she stepped closer and lowered her voice in a way that felt like a knife. She said tonight her friends would say the truth out loud, and she said I should hear it like a man. I asked what she meant. Noelle smiled and said I would find out if I had the courage to show up. She opened the door and paused with her hand on the knob, like she wanted one last look at my reaction. I did not give her one. The door closed behind her, and the latch clicked, sharp, in the quiet hallway. I sat at the kitchen table and breathed slowly. My phone buzzed with a group chat ping. I opened it because hiding from it was not protecting Lena anymore. Maris had posted a flyer for a community center event, a friends' night, with music, a mic, and a toast time. The caption said they were celebrating fresh starts. I scrolled down and saw Bryce commenting that the biggest mistake deserved a proper goodbye. My stomach tightened. I could almost hear the words being rehearsed. I did not reply. I took screenshots, saved them, and put my phone down. I told myself I would not go there to fight. If I went, it would be to witness, to keep my posture calm, and to leave with dignity. I also told myself Lena would not be dragged into any scene. I checked on her once more, saw her sleeping, then I put on a plain jacket and drove to the community center. The parking lot was full. Cars were lined up close, and the building glowed with warm lights like it was hosting something innocent. People walked in laughing, holding drinks, greeting each other like a reunion. I parked under a camera light on purpose and walked in with slow steps. The hall was crowded, loud, and bright. Music played low under the noise of voices. A small stage area had a microphone and a speaker stand. It was not a formal event, but it had the shape of one, like someone wanted a moment to be witnessed. I stayed near the back, close to the exit, where my presence was visible and my distance was clear. I did not push forward. I did not hide. I was not there to ambush anyone. I was there to see what was real. Noelle was near the front with her friends, surrounded by a circle like she was the center of gravity. Maris held her phone up, filming Noelle's face, her smile, her confident posture. Bryce stood close, one hand holding a plastic cup, the other hand gesturing like he was already delivering lines. I watched Noelle glance around, and when her eyes found me, her smile grew wider. She leaned toward Maris and said something I could not hear, and Maris turned her phone slightly to catch me in the frame. That was the point. They wanted proof I was watching. They wanted the clip of me standing there like a punished man. I kept my face neutral. I kept my hands open. I kept my breathing slow. A toast began. Someone clinked a cup. The crowd made a small chant, not organized, but eager. Bryce stepped toward the microphone like he belonged there. He tapped it once, and the sound popped through the speaker, making people laugh. Bryce said they should celebrate Noelle choosing herself. He said she had wasted years on the wrong man, and now she was finally free. People cheered. Noelle lifted her cup and smiled like she was receiving an award. Bryce said he wanted Noelle to say it herself because honesty was healing. He turned toward her and offered the microphone like a gift. Noelle took it without hesitation. Noelle looked around the room like she was scanning for approval. Then she looked straight at me, holding the mic close to her mouth. She asked if I could hear her. I did not answer. I did not nod. I simply stood still. Noelle laughed and said I always acted like silence made me superior. Then she said the line, loud enough for the whole hall. She said I was the biggest mistake of her life. People gasped in the way people do when they want drama, then laughed, then cheered. Maris filmed the crowd reaction. Someone near the front shouted that Noelle deserved better. Someone else shouted that controlling men should be shamed. Bryce smiled like a proud coach. Noelle kept the mic and added more, saying she had wasted years being small so I could feel big. She said my calm was just control with a soft voice. She said she wished she had listened to her friends sooner. I felt my chest tighten, but I did not move. I did not walk forward. I did not raise my hand. I did not shout back. The whole room was waiting for me to react because a reaction would make their story complete. I refused to complete it. I looked at Noelle with steady eyes and then looked away, as if she was a stranger talking into a microphone about a stranger. That tiny refusal made her smile flicker for half a second, because she wanted to see pain. She wanted to see me crack. When she did not get it, she pushed harder. She laughed into the mic and asked if I was planning to cry like a victim. The crowd laughed again. A phone flash popped from someone close to the aisle. I saw the bright white burst and felt it like a slap. My jaw wanted to clench, but I forced it to stay loose. I reminded myself of Lena asking if she was a mistake, too. I reminded myself this was not about my ego. This was about protecting a child from a world where humiliation is celebrated. I turned and walked toward the exit at a normal pace. I did not rush like I was running away. I did not stomp like I was angry. I walked like a man leaving a place that no longer mattered. Behind me, I heard Bryce say something about the coward leaving. I heard laughter. I heard Maris whisper, still filming, that this was the proof they needed. I stepped out into the colder air and stood under the parking lot light, breathing slowly. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I looked at the screen and did not answer. A second later, my phone buzzed again, not a call, a notification. A tagged video had already been posted. The title on it read, "Biggest Mistake Finally Hears the Truth." I stared at the words and felt something settle, heavy and clear. This had crossed from mean into harmful. It was not just friends talking. It was a public campaign that reached my child's school. I did not speak that thought out loud. I simply saved the link, saved the time, and put the phone away. When I got home, Noelle was not there yet. The apartment was quiet, and Lena's nightlight still hummed. I walked to her door and listened. Her breathing was steady. I stood there longer than I should have, because I needed that sound to keep me human. In the kitchen, I opened my laptop and looked at the timeline I had started. I added the event in plain words. Community Center Hall, microphone, biggest mistake, crowd cheering, filming. I did not write how it made me feel. I wrote what happened. Then I created a second folder on the desktop called Archive B because I understood that some things get deleted later when fear replaces laughter. I minimized the screen as soon as I heard footsteps in the hallway. Noelle came in smelling like smoke and perfume again, smiling at her phone. She stopped when she saw me at the table. She asked if I had finally learned to listen. I looked at her and said only one sentence. I said, "Lena heard your words at school." Noelle's smile faltered, then returned like armor. She said Lena would be fine. I did not argue. I stood up slowly and said I would handle this properly. Noelle laughed at first, then stopped laughing when my voice did not shake. The following morning, I woke early, not from anger, but from a quiet determination that settled in my chest like a weight I could not shake. I had spent the night thinking of Lena, thinking of how she'd been affected by everything, by Noelle's words, by the public spectacle, and by the way our home had turned into a stage for a show I never wanted to be a part of. The quiet hum of the apartment in the morning felt strange, as though it no longer belonged to the family I had tried to build, but to something foreign and detached. I needed a plan, something that could shield Lena and protect what little peace remained. Noelle had stayed out late again. The door had clicked shut quietly when she came home, and she hadn't come to speak to me. She didn't need to. She knew what she had done, and she knew I wasn't going to react in the way she wanted. But her silence felt like a challenge, like she was daring me to do something she could use against me. I wouldn't give her that. I wouldn't give her the chance to control the narrative. I started by preparing breakfast. Lena woke up as usual, looking a little tired but still smiling, and she ran into the kitchen to greet me. I kept my face neutral because I knew she could sense the tension. She asked if Mom was mad at Dad again, and I gave her the same answer I always did. No, sweetheart, we're just working through some things, but it's nothing to worry about. I wasn't lying. Noelle's actions were something I needed to work through, but I wouldn't let them define our family, and I would shield Lena from the worst of it. After breakfast, I took Lena to school. She seemed quieter than usual, clutching her backpack strap with an almost tight grip. I didn't ask her about the other kids, but I knew the rumors were spreading, and I wasn't sure how much of it had reached her. I needed to protect her from the cruelty of grown-up mistakes. As I dropped her off, she gave me a small, uncertain wave before disappearing inside. I watched her walk through the doors, feeling the weight of every decision I'd made up until that point. I had to find a way to end this cycle of humiliation, not just for myself, but for Lena. I drove back home, but instead of going inside, I parked in the lot near the community center where everything had unfolded the night before. I didn't need to walk in, I didn't need to see Noelle or her friends again. I had seen enough. But I needed space to think, to gather what was left of my resolve. I opened my laptop and began reviewing everything I had been saving in the past few days. The posts, the comments, the videos, the screenshots. I was building a timeline, not of my humiliation, but of the facts. A record. Noelle thought she could erase this with a few deleted texts. But I had learned something about her. She was careless. Each screenshot, each post, each timestamp was a piece of the puzzle. I didn't need to make a scene. I didn't need to chase after her for the 100th time. I would make sure the truth spoke for itself, and when it did, Noelle would have no choice but to face the consequences. But I couldn't do this alone. I needed legal counsel. I called a lawyer's office I had looked up the night before. The receptionist answered, and I gave her the briefest description of the situation. Emotional abuse, defamation, public humiliation, and the way my family had been dragged through it all. I scheduled a consultation for later in the week, but I knew this would be a long process. Noelle wouldn't back down easily. She liked control, she thrived on the attention, and she loved playing the victim to her friends. But the game was changing. As the day passed, I could feel the pressure of my calm growing heavier. I knew that the calm I had cultivated was a weapon, but it was one that had to be used sparingly. I couldn't let Noelle see it as an invitation to escalate. She had to know that this time things would be different. I was done being her target, done being the villain in her story. I had to protect Lena from this twisted reality. If that meant taking legal steps, then that was what I had to do. When Noelle returned home that evening, she seemed surprised to find me at the kitchen table, working on my laptop. She asked what I was doing, and I told her I was handling things properly. She smirked and said, "So, the lawyer has finally come out, huh?" I didn't rise to her bait. Instead, I said, "I've made some decisions, Noelle. I won't keep living this way, and neither will Lena." She laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "What are you going to do, Cassian? Threaten me again? Get your little legal papers and feel like you've won?" Her voice was sharp, but I stayed quiet. Noelle had this twisted idea that if she kept poking at me, I would snap. She was wrong. I had learned that my restraint would be the thing that saved me, that saved us, from the destruction she was trying to create. She leaned against the doorframe, watching me with an almost predatory gaze, as if waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. I said, "I'm not threatening you. I'm taking action. This cycle ends now." She shook her head as if I had just said something absurd. "You really think you can just erase all of this with your little plans?" she asked. "I don't need to erase anything," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "I just need to make sure the truth is heard." I stood up then, not out of anger, but out of a sense of purpose. I was done with this version of our life. Noelle's eyes flickered for a moment, a flash of uncertainty before she masked it again with a smug grin. She opened her phone and started typing, her thumbs moving quickly, probably drafting another post to try to bait me, to try to turn this into another public spectacle. But this time, I wasn't playing. I wasn't reacting. I walked past her to the hallway, making sure my movements were deliberate, controlled. I walked out the front door, locking it behind me. I didn't want to give Noelle any more chances to turn this into a fight. I wanted her to know that I wasn't afraid of her anymore, that I wasn't afraid of losing her in a way she thought I would. I was already rebuilding. The next day, I took a half day at work to meet with the lawyer. I didn't tell Noelle where I was going. It didn't matter. Noelle had her own plans, and they were all based on how much she could manipulate me. But I wasn't her puppet anymore. The lawyer was sharp, confident, and understood exactly what I needed. We went over the details, and they assured me that my case would be solid. I felt a sense of relief, but also a heavy weight that settled in my chest. There was no turning back now. It was time to make sure Noelle's games were over. When I returned home that evening, Noelle was nowhere to be found. Her things were scattered, but she was gone. I checked the time. She had planned another night out. I didn't care. I didn't need to watch her to know what she was doing. She would do what she always did, try to prove a point to her friends. I sat down at the kitchen table again, feeling the weight of my decision settle more comfortably in my mind. This was my life now. This was my fight. Not against Noelle, not against her friends, but against the chaos she had created. I was going to fix this for Lena, no matter what. At the office tower lobby, Noelle arrived smiling, phone ready to film. I stayed still, hands open, eyes calm. A neutral server confirmed our names and placed the envelope into her hands. Noelle tried to laugh, then stopped as she read the first page. The papers demanded takedowns, no contact limits, and a temporary plan starting today, keeping Lena off her posts. Helena stepped forward to argue, but Evan shook his head and refused. Noelle's screen kept lighting up, yet she could not delete this moment now.